Another vibrant music teaching chat. I am so excited to get started with you here today. So it is absolutely fantastic to be back with you for another vibrant music teaching chat. If you haven't been with us before, this is your place to come to have a little bit of an inspiration to connect with teachers during this time when we all need more connection, and also to get your questions answered. So if you have any questions today, please do add them in the chat. Find it right alongside the video right here. I'm excited to hear what you want to learn about today, and also what you want to learn about in upcoming chats. So I'm doing these chats 3 times a week. Sometimes I have special guests and sometimes it's just me, and they are on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. Okay, it's clearly a Friday today because I'm getting muddled up about the days of the week, but they're on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays in the afternoon. And I'd love to hear today, as I plan the content for next week, we're doing these sort of not quite on the fly, but as we go through, seeing what topics come up that teachers need help with the most and where I can provide insights or inspiration. So if you have particular things that you'd like to hear one of these sessions about, or a particular guest you'd like to see here, let me know about it. I'd love to hear your suggestions today and your questions more generally about anything to do with online teaching, teaching in general, business stuff, what you're going to do for the summer, which is what I've been thinking about a lot today, and anything else that comes up for you. Great to see lots of people here live. We've got Jeremy, Elizabeth, Janelle. Great. Janelle, I think you've made almost all of these, have you? It's awesome to see you here. And Laurie, you've been on almost all of them as well. It's great to see you here. And Carrie and Alexandra, Christy, Melissa. Oh my gosh, it's so great to have all of you here. Do add your highs and hellos and your questions into the chat and your topics that you want to see in the future chats next week. Now today, I'm going to be taking you through the composing process that I've been doing with my students in their online lessons. So this has been a really interesting project. It's something I kind of thought of, well, as we're all doing everything right now, right, by the seat of my pants. Absolutely trying to figure out something creative I could do, and I had this idea and I thought, you know what, it might be totally mad, but I'm going to try it. It was actually, I was a little bit uncertain of it. This was quite a few weeks ago now, but this was when we were just getting started with online lessons, and I was uncertain enough of this idea not to immediately launch it to the other teachers in my studio and say that they were going to have to do it as well. But I just got started with my own students, and then once I saw that it was going well, I got them on board too. It also gave them some time to settle into online lessons, because I mean, I've taught a bit online already, and I also spend a lot of time online in general, but they don't, right? So I needed to give them that settling in time, or I wanted to, rather. And now they're doing this process, so I can verify that it absolutely not only worked for me, but is also working for other teachers, and it's been really, really great. I've been surprised how smoothly it's gone. Had to do some figuring out as I went along, but it's been a really valuable experience for my students. So the basic idea I had with this composing thing was that I was going to try and bring students together in our composing project this year. So we do a composing project every year around this time, composing or arranging, and we had actually already started on our Happy Birthday project called Jubilation Variations. And that was going well, and we can sort of do it in online lessons, but it wasn't the best format for online lessons. So it was sort of, I was doing it in the beginning weeks, and I have still been keeping up with that with some students, but for some, particularly the younger students, it wasn't particularly suited to that format, and especially, it morphs Happy Birthday into these various modes and stuff, and I just didn't feel they were going to get the full benefit of that. So I've gradually been petering that out with a view to bringing it back when we're in person, and wanted another composing project to sort of replace that. So this is where this idea came from. It also came from the idea that I wanted to bring my students together. So I already have students together on a lot of the calls, because I do buddy lessons. So my students have overlapping lessons, and that's been great. Some of them do solo lessons, so they don't have that experience. I have also brought in sessions which I call practice with pals once a week. So I do 2 of those sessions a week, one for 9 and under, and one for 10 and over. There's no particular logic to that age split other than it splits my studio neatly in half, pretty much, in terms of the kids. So that's why I went with that age. And those are really fun as well for bringing the students together. But I wanted to connect people more generally across the whole studio. And that's where I came up with this composing project idea. So I have mentioned it on some of these chats before. And there's been a lot of interest in the comments, so I thought I'd walk you through exactly how it goes. Sound good? Okay, give it a like on this video. Hit the thumbs up button if you're like the idea of this topic. Appreciate hearing about it. Thinking of trying this yourself in your studio. I'd love to hear from you guys about that. Now, so I'm going to walk you through exactly the process. The basic idea is that we pass the compositions along. So that's how I brought the studio together across all my different students. So when I sat down to figure this out, it hurt my head a bit. I'm going to be honest with you. It was not the easiest thing to do. I have quite a few students, like 35 students, and then eventually I brought in the other teacher students as well, so that's even more. But personally, I have about 30 something. And so I wanted to be able to pass those compositions along, and also to keep everyone. Oh, sorry, I should be. Let me start my explanation again, because there's one thing I didn't mention, which is that I have done the compositions in all different keys. So, like I said, I have 30 something odd students, so I had to repeat a few of the keys, but we used all 24 keys. So that was just a fun way of making sure things ended up different, and that we had a mixture, and that when we bring these together in a book like we're planning to do, that it's going to have a variety within the volume. I also didn't want everyone to write a minor piece, and we all know that might have happened if I had have left them up to their own devices, right? So all 24 keys and then a few repeated. And I wanted to keep the easier keys for the beginners, especially in the beginning stages. So there are 4 stages that students go through with these pieces. Stage 1 is that they write the A theme, the A melody, A motif, whatever you want to call it. Stage 2 is that they write the B motif, and they choose the form. So they choose whether it's ABBA or whatever. Step 3 is that they add the left hand. And step 4 is that they add the dynamics, articulation, choose the tempo, add pedal if they want it, and choose the title. So we're doing all of these 4 things over 4 weeks. So everyone does A motif, everyone does B motif and form, everyone does the left hand, everyone does dynamics, tempo, articulation. Obviously, for stage 3, by the way, the melody could have been in the left hand. I chose to keep it simple. It's best to have parameters around these things, and it gives them a sense of the process, especially for beginner to early intermediate students. This is a totally fine way to look at composition, in my view. So the first step was to make a spreadsheet and to decide who was going to get each key piece each week. And this is where I'm going to save you some of my headaches, okay? This is the simple way to do it. That didn't occur to me at the time because I was totally in first week of COVID panic mode. That's the honest truth. I was a bit frantic, not actually running around frantically, not actually that busy, but you know when you just feel kind of pent up? That's how I felt the first week, and I'm sure that was the same for some of you. Maybe you're still feeling that way, but I'm a lot more relaxed now, and I've realised there's a simple way to do this, which is you put students in groups of 4 and you just swap them along the way. That's not the way I did it, so it's moved a lot more randomly through my studio, but if you just do sets of 4, then you can just swap and rotate and it'll work out really easily and neatly. Okay, so let me show you how I set up these compositions in one moment. Before I get to that, I've seen a lot of people with enthusiasm for this topic, which is great. I'm glad you want to hear about this, guys. But we have Janelle here, and we have Carrie, and a few other people saying that they want to know more about practice with pals. And I was actually wondering if this might be a good topic for one of next week's sessions. So that's a really great feedback. Thank you for that. If anyone has any other ideas for next week's sessions that you want to hear about, things you've heard me say in passing, or just general things that you want to hear about as topics discussed about online teaching or teaching in general, let me know. So let's take a look at how we set this up. So I use Musescore. I'm going to put that up on my screen now. No, let's have this one. We don't need the overhead piano view. I'm not teaching you how to play piano, am I? Okay, so this is Musescore. I use Musescore because it's free, it's accessible. It's actually used for Leaving Cert, like high school music here, so they can use it on exams and stuff. And I actually teach it to students sometimes in the studio. Last year for their project, they all put together their composition in Musescore as well, if they were over age 8, I think was the cutoff I chose. So it's really great to have them, in my opinion, using this software and seeing me use it as well and becoming familiar with all the menus and stuff through me using it. So the way I've been doing this in online lessons is I pull up the Musescore file that's appropriate. So if they're supposed to do the A theme for C major this week, then that's the file I open. And I have those all set up in advance. I have my spreadsheet put out and I have all the files set up like I'm about to show you right now so that I can just hop in and write in the melody. I'm not actually doing the setup with them on the call, right? Because that's not super efficient. They're going to get bored. So I have the file already set up in advance. So this is what I would do to set that up before the lesson even happens. First of all, we just go to New. And then I've just been calling them after the key. Remember, the last student, the last stage, they're going to set the title for the piece. And so I don't set a title now. So I've just been calling them C major, etc. Right? I've been leaving the composer blank and everything like that because things end up being tweaked sometimes if like a student misses a lesson or something and I need to move things around. I don't set the composers yet. I just adjust that on my spreadsheet. And so I'll go continue, and then we're going to use the grand staff, continue, C major as we've said, or any other key that we were doing. I've been leaving them in 4/4, but if a student writes a melody and it's in another time signature, I change that as we go. And all of the pieces are 16 bars or 16 measures. So I'm just going to click done there. And then the first thing I always do in Musescore is make 4 lines. So I'm just going to click on this bar line here and click enter so that I can have my 4 neat looking lines and see what's going on. And then I always go up to page settings. Sorry, that's on the wrong screen. Page settings, and I change this to a nice big notation. Since it's only 16 bars, we can fit 2.2. is the standard one I use for a lot of student composition so that it's going to be nice and accessible and easy for them to read. Okay, question there in the chat from Carrie, I think. Let's take a look at that. So do you choose a different key for each student in the 4-student group? Yes. So let's say we have Anna, Barry, Claire, and Derek. So Anna starts with A major. Barry starts with B major, Claire starts with C major, and Derek starts with D major. Making sense so far, Carrie? And then the next week, Anna is going to do the D major that Derek did last week. And then Barry is going to do the A major, and right, so we're moving them along. So that's how it would work in a 4-student group, or you can rotate it through your whole studio like I did in a sort of crazy fashion, but it just requires a little bit of working of your spreadsheet to make that make sense. Okay, so that's my setup. I make it nice and big. I always change the fonts as well because I'm super picky, so since I'm doing it as I do it, we'll do that too. So I go to text styles. That sounds like textiles, doesn't it? Text styles. And I change this to Dosis, which is my standard font for student compositions. And then I would have changed the composer and stuff as well. But that's just, again, like I say, me being picky and choosing the fonts. So I would save this on my computer and have it ready to go and open it up when the student who's supposed to be doing C major that week is having their lesson. So I just open it up before I start their lesson on Zoom, and then I can share my screen during the lesson. So then when I am sharing my screen, we're inputting the music there. Okay, let's just check here that I'm making sense to everyone. So Janelle, so each 4-student group is making 4 complete songs in 4 different keys. Yep. It doesn't have to be groups of 4 students. That was just my idea to simplify things for you guys. But yes, there's going to be in the end 1 piece created per student, but it's going to have been touched by 4 students, every piece. Okay, so here's my C major score setup, and with this student now in the lesson, what I would say to them is, okay, put your thumb on C. You're going to use a C pentascale, so only use the notes under your fingers, and just play around with that until you come up with a melody that you like the sound of, and I'll help you write it down. Right? So I'm their scribe, I'm their amanuensis in this online format for composing. Then the student messes around, they come up with something they like, or I coax them a bit. So if it's a particularly picky student, or someone who's uncertain of this kind of stuff, they'll be playing around and they'll be doing it for quite a while because they're a bit of a perfectionist or something like that, and I'll say, oh, that was a great little nugget there. I'll pick something out for them if that's the case, and just say, oh, that little bit sounded great, what did you play just then? And I'll take it and start writing that down just to speed things up if I need to do that. So then I need to write this on staff. If you've not used Musescore, it's pretty straightforward. Of course, every new software, every notation software is going to come with a bit of a learning curve, but I've found Musescore to be quite intuitive. So you press on the N when you want to input notes, and then you can change the length of the notes, the note value up here. I use the keys on the keyboard for that, but you can just click around if you're just getting used to it. And let's say they wrote a piece, so they've written their little melody. If it's an older student, or a more advanced student, let me say, I will ask them to tell me what to write. So actually ask them to tell me in solfa, because it makes them work their brain a little bit harder, and tell me the rhythm. If it's a younger student, and in general that would take a little bit more lesson time to figure all this stuff out, I'll just write it for them, okay? So if it's an older student, they'll tell me, okay, it starts on mi, and then it goes up in quavers to fa, and then so, and then it steps down back to fa, and it does a minim there. Okay, I'm just making this up randomly. And then there's a dotted minim on do, and then so, crotchet, and then it steps all the way down back to a semi-breve on C. Okay. So they would describe that to me, and I would write it on the screen. Now I've discovered that, well, let me see here. I don't think I can get the sound to come through when I'm on Ecamm Live here. It does work. Oh wait, I probably can get it through my mic. Let's try and get that working, because it's nice to have it. I know that might be a bit quiet, but you get the sense of it. So through Zoom that plays pretty neatly, and I share that with my student and say, oh, okay, is that exactly what you pictured? Do we need to adjust anything? And then once we're done with that, that is week 1 done. So every student completes that now for all of my pieces, so they've all got it filled in. And then it's week 2. And someone else is now working on the C major composition, and I open this up for their lesson. Okay, so in our example we had Claire having the C major composition the first week, and now Derek is going to have it. So the first thing Derek needs to do is hear that piece of music, the beautiful melody, the amazing piece of music that I just wrote. I play that for Derek and I say, okay, you're going to compose a B melody that goes with that A motif. So you need to use the same C major pentascale, and it should go together with that, but not be exactly the same. So Derek now messes around on the keyboard and he comes up with something he likes. And then once he has something that he likes the sound of, I write it down for him. Derek's telling me what to write if he's old enough to do that. No, he's not allowed A. So I've been restricting them just to a pentascale to keep things simple. Okay, so Derek writes something like that now. Actually, let's have him land on the dominant just for the crack. Okay, so now Derek has these two, and the last thing Derek needs to do is decide the form of the piece. So the way I explain this for students who haven't encountered this before, I say, okay, now this, we're calling all of that A. Some students struggle with this, so I like to be super clear. We're calling all of that A. That's the A motif. This here that you just wrote, that is the B motif. So what pattern would you like it to go in? We can have A and then B and then A and then B, or we can have A and then B, B again, A, and from there they normally get the idea and they're like, oh, okay, so I want it to go A, B, A, A. A few students have picked that, even though they wrote the B motif, and I think it kind of says something about, anyway, their confidence in their own melody writing, but I don't debate it with them if it happens in the lesson. So they've decided the form now, and I save that file again and I close it. And then next week, we're going to open it up again. Now I just had a question come here from Mary. Hey Mary. So you can't find the Musescore app on iPad. It's not on iPad, Mary. This is a desktop app. You'll need to use something else if you need to use an iPad. I prefer notating things on a computer, so I can't recommend something specific. But people may have suggestions for you in the chat. Feel free to add your favorite iPad notation app if you have one for Mary there. So, lots of people excited about this idea, which is awesome. Mariah, yeah, I did mention that briefly. Do you explore other meters, or is that something explored in individual comp projects to learn about meters? So because at the start I'm letting them freeform, just mess around with, say, a C major pentascale, if they land on a rhythm that doesn't fit neatly in 4/4, I'll say, oh great, we need to change the time signature. What time signature do you think this is in? For a more beginner student. If they're more advanced, I'll be asking them this right up front. Okay, the full melody, what's my first solfa note, what's the first note value, and what time signature do you think that it is, right? So they're deciding all of that and figuring out how it fits. Some of them can do that right off the bat. For some it takes a bit of coaching, but it's a great experience for them. Now, let's say it's week 3 here, so this Derek finished this off, and let's just keep passing it on. Okay, so we're going now back to Anna. So she's never seen this piece before. She's been working on other pieces the last 2 weeks, and we open this up for Anna's lesson. And then in Anna's lesson, the first thing I do is play our beautiful melody for Anna. Okay, I'm not going to play the repeats for you, but that's the idea. So now Anna listens to that and we say, oh, isn't that a cool melody, Anna? That's awesome, right? And doesn't it sound like it was written by one person instead of two? They did such a good job, and we've connected to the fact that we're working with other students on this, right? And this is where I generally get on the piano. So actually I'll change the view here so you guys can see the keyboard. Okay, so this is where I start to take a little bit more control. So I don't have my students mess around with the left hand themselves at this stage and try to decide things by themselves, because it would just take so much time, honestly. And they're reading it off a screen, and that's kind of awkward, and it depends on their device. So I decided, no, I'm going to be their player. They're going to be the decider, right? Still valuable, still easy to follow what's going on, and it's going to be more successful. Broken chords, yes, this is Musescore. Yeah, we're in Musescore right now. So what I do is nice and simple. I give them 4 options. These are the 4 different types of left hands you can choose from for the first line. Which one are you going to choose? And so my 4 options for them are chords. And I just demonstrate the first bar. That's what a chord might sound like. They're going to pick between chords later, but they're just picking the type right now. Or long notes. Or you can choose same. Or opposite. I say opposite rather than contrary motion just to keep things simple. So I give them the choice of 4. What would be fun is if you guys chose right now. Can you choose one of those 4? Someone in the comments. Chords, long note, same, opposite. That's the choice. While you're doing that, I'll answer a question from Janelle here. How long do you aim that this takes in a lesson? I know it might differ with each student, but was wondering ballpark time frame. Great question, Janelle. So with a solo student, about 10 minutes. With my buddy students, it takes longer. We do it together. The first 2 stages they do separately, and I mute them while they work on their composition. And then I write it down with them both together, so obviously that takes longer. And the second 2 stages, so the 3rd and 4th stage, what we're doing right now, and the next stage with the dynamics, we do that all together as a group of 3 for both the pieces that they're both working on, right? So that takes 20 minutes with the 3 of us together in all those stages, or one-on-one about 10 minutes. Okay, chords. Everyone wants chords. Okay. So for the chords, what I do is I just give them a choice. And I give them some of the most obvious choices for each bar. Okay? So I keep it simple, and I don't even necessarily provide all the options, just whatever occurs to me straight away on the fly. So I say to them, right, for the first chord, do you want C major? Or A minor? Or F major? Or G? I gave 4 choices there. I might only do 2 choices, and I'll limit it down if I need to condense the amount of time it's taking us, right? So let's say they pick A minor. Whoops. And then I put that in there. Right? And then I do the next bar, and they pick C. So each time I'm demoing the chord. Let's say they wanted G7. Sometimes I give them random inversions if they occur to me, just to keep things interesting and fun. Okay, and then just for the purposes of this, you guys chose chords for the first one. I'm gonna choose same for the next one here. Just pretend they've chosen same. If they choose same, I say, okay, or contrary motion, opposite. I say, do you want it 2 octaves lower or 1 octave lower? So I demo those for them. Or down here, which one? And so let's say they choose 2. And then from there, we say, okay, we have the A motif again. Do you want it to be the same? Or a different style? Or still chords, but different chords? And they pick that. Let's say they pick long notes this time, but they go with the same root notes that we just had. I'm just messing here. This might not sound super amazing, but you get the idea, right? And then they want the same chords at the end. Okay? They can also choose at this stage if they, I'll say to them, okay, is there any of those where you want to change the octaves? And they might choose to put this up an octave for that line. Okay? My students have actually found this stage to be one of the most rewarding, which is interesting. You expect it to be the first stage where they're actually writing the melody, but they really love this stage because it's where it starts to become rich and full. It depends on the student, but a lot of them this has been their favorite, and I've been asking them as we work through which one they're enjoying the most. So let's take a listen to our beautiful piece so far. Can you guys kind of hear when I play it through the speaker? We'll see. You can let me know if there's no sound at all. Okay, so they really love that stage and it's starting to come together. I'll talk you through stage 4 in 2 seconds now. Oh, you hear it well. Great that the sound is coming through. Last time we had some trouble with that on here, so I just like to check. So let me go back to this view here and say hi to you all again, even if I'm in miniature. I'm so happy that so many of you are thinking you might want to try this. It has been so much fun. It's been really a great way to connect students with others, and especially for the kiddos who are feeling quite lonely. I think it's fun to have these connections and little things we can do to bring people together right now. Quick question there from Broken Chords. How is the best way to prop a phone above my piano as you're doing? So right here on the YouTube channel, if you take a look through, you'll see some options for setting up an overhead camera. There is a video about that. Mine is, I can't turn the camera so you can see right now, but you'll see it in that video. That's the best thing if you go and take a look at that. This is a Logitech webcam that I've had for years and years, and it's on a boom arm, so it's sitting above my piano. You can absolutely mount a phone like that as well, so that will work. Awesome. Okay, lots of you thinking you might want to try this. This should be so cool. Laurie, should we explain to students who might want to do chords themselves which chords would match? Or is it more hearing what sounds good to them? Yeah, I'm not going into the theory on this. If you have a student who already knows about that, this is a great opportunity to reinforce all of that stuff. But it's just about keeping it simple for me, and like I say, if you want to keep this to 10 minutes, you're going to need to do it this way in an online lesson. It really is going to work better, and they're using their ears, right? Listening. Yeah, I mean, obviously, when I'm choosing the chords to give them that choice, I'm using my music theory brain a bit, but it's just about them listening and deciding what sounds good. Absolutely. Unless you have a student who particularly is going to be interested in that. Okay, last stage. Let me know if you have any questions as we work through here. So, our last stage is the most fun for some other students. I told you left hand was some of their favorite, but a lot of them the last stage was as well, because this is when we add in the dynamics and the tempo and everything. So what I actually do at this stage is I put in a tempo mark like that, and I actually make this invisible so that I can leave it there if I want to export the PDF later. That's not going to show up. So Musescore, by the way, if you're clicking on something and you want to make it invisible, you just press V on the keyboard and that does that. So I set this tempo here. Now, so what I actually ask my students, either one of my buddy students if they're together or my solo students, I'll say, okay, pick a random number between 60 and 200. I chose 60 as the minimum because otherwise it takes too long to play, and most pieces will sound better at 60 or above. So, random number between 60 and 200. Can you guys pick one in the comments so that we get a bit of interactivity going here? Random number between 60 and 200, and then I'm going to play the piece for them at that tempo the first time, so that it's just random. It's not an actual choice, because I found that if I just chose 90 and started all the pieces at that, we would often arrive around at 90 because that's how they first heard it. Okay, Kelly picked 114. That sounds like a student-y tempo to me. They always pick odd numbers. Not exactly odd, but unusual numbers. Okay, so we're going to listen to it at 114. You guys just heard it, so I won't play it for you, but we would listen the whole way through at 114. And you guys can pick now whether it should be faster or slower. What do you think? Should it be faster or slower than that? Pick a new number. I'll take the next new number from here. And you guys can write that in while I answer Gary here. Late to the party, but are you sharing Musescore with the student? Are they able to add stuff from your computer, or are you doing that for them? Yeah, so Gary, I recommend you watch from the start, because this has been a bit of a tutorial of the full process. So once we're finished the live stream, you can go back. But stick with us now. And yeah, basically we're walking through this whole process on the screen. I'm writing and they're making all the decisions and doing the composing themselves. Okay, the next new tempo, everyone's saying faster. The next new tempo has been 146. And I would give my students a few goes at this, so if they suddenly decided, okay, that's too fast, then we would go back down or we would go up again. I'm going to take your first answer as being, you could pretty much hear it, Emily, at what you wanted it to be. So we'll go with that as our final tempo. And then from there, I asked them if they know the tempo mark that would match that. So we put in an appropriate tempo mark. I'd call that vivace, so let's go with that. And you'll see it looks a bit funny, because that's because I have the invisible one behind. Once I export the PDF, that's not going to show up. We're just going to see vivace. And then I choose a start, and I say, okay, so you guys, so what dynamic should we start with? Okay, we won't go the whole way through with this, but you guys choose the first one, okay? So what dynamic would you start with? And they choose, and I need to tell me the Italian term, obviously, so they're reviewing all of that stuff as we work through this process. Chickering Carol from Chickering, I presume. What platform do you use to split your screen for us? Showing both the Musescore and your keyboard, camera, all these different views. This is within Ecamm Live, which I use for live streaming, and I also use in my Zoom lessons, so it's my virtual camera, so I do use these views in my lessons, but you don't need this to do this project. You could absolutely do this with your screen share alone. You don't need the split view. It doesn't have to be fancy. Okay, Emily again. Awesome. Emily has chosen mezzo forte to start with, and let's say from there they say, okay, I want it to be in bar 6. Getting students to direct you with bar numbers has been a really valuable thing that all my students have learned from online lessons, even the youngest ones. So let's say they say from bar 6 there's going to be a crescendo for 2 bars, right? So they're getting used to describing all these things clearly, which I think is fantastic and helps them to see things in a different way. And then for the last bar in that line, we're going to get up to forte. And then they say it's going to drop down to pianissimo there and stay that way all the way almost to the end. And then it's going to be, because students are mad, right? So they want 4 Ps because they saw that in a piece one time. And then, yeah, so it stays that way at the end. Great. So they have all of that. Then they need to decide about the articulation. So let's say this student wants some staccato notes. Then we would put that in. Like that. And say they want them in the same spot in all of those 4. And then if they wanted, phrase lines and stuff like that, we would put that in as well at this stage. You get the idea, right? So this is our beautiful piece of music. It's really coming together now in a sort of random fashion. And then if they want pedal, it depends on the student whether I brought that into it, but if they have been learning about pedal, I've asked them about that and added that in if they wanted it. And actually it's been a fun opportunity to say, okay, there's 2 different options with pedal. Obviously there's more, but 2 different options. Either you're going to decide how they pedal, or you're going to leave it up to them. A lot of them want to leave it up to the performer, so we just put with pedal or con pedale. I give them a choice of it, English or Italian, just for fun there. And then if they want to be specific, obviously we put in the pedaling lines. And then it needs a title. So we're going to listen to this once more, everyone. And I want to hear some title suggestions because we need a title for our beautiful piece. Okay, we'll listen to the whole thing. Okay, what are we going to call our beautiful piece? Add in your suggestions as well as your questions about this whole process and how it works into the comments. I would love to hear from you so that we can give this piece a beautiful title. Carrie. Quarantine Chorus. Nice. Bye bye COVID-19. They're all going to be titles like this. No kid comes up with titles like this, guys. I'll show you some of the titles my students have come up with. Some of them are mad. I have them open here. So these are the ones we've finished, by the way. We're not finished with all of them. It depends on where students have gone to, and a few got delayed and stuff. So I would allow more than 4 weeks if you can for this, just to allow for a bit of extra wiggle room. We've got a dramatic ballet for my students. Fawn leaving home. Grasshopper getting out of the rain. I like that one. I'm late! We decided for that one. Just I'm late. In the trenches. They wanted something to do with death and war, and I thought we could go with something a bit vague and sort of coax them towards that title. Lost Umbrella. I like that one a lot. Melting Sandcastles. Miserably Missing Love. Owl Silently Soaring. See how fun the creativity in these titles is awesome. They're so fun. So these are all going to come together in a book, as we do every year. Oh, do I have a book nearby? No, I don't have it's inaccessible for me to show you a book, unfortunately. But we put together a physical book each year. We started that tradition a couple of years ago, and I've kept it going because it's so fun. And every student gets a copy of that book. And this year, they're not going to just be excited about their own one piece, because that does tend to happen. Like, yeah, they want to see their friends' pieces, they want to see what other people have come up with, but they won't necessarily play them all. It's just a memento. Whereas this time, there's 4 pieces, at least, for some of them more than that they've worked on. Which is awesome, right? And they're all going to be together in this book, and they can see their name in all these different spots, and I've put them in order that they worked on them. You saw that there. I won't share my screen again, but you saw the list of kids in order that they worked on them. So there's between 4 and 6 students. No, yeah, between 4 and 8, is it? Anyway, I can't count. 4 and 6, yeah, students worked on each piece, which is so cool. And it's been a really, really fun project. So I hope some of you will try it out and test it out, and maybe put together a book for your students. You don't have to do that part. You can absolutely just use, anything. Print out sheet music, just send it to them. It's mostly about the process. The book is just a fun thing to do at the end. Gary had a question there. Would this work equally well with finale, Sibelius, etc.? Yeah, doesn't matter. Absolutely doesn't matter. I'm just screen sharing. Musescore is free, which is why I suggest it. It is powerful enough for almost everything a piano teacher or pianist in general would want to do. where you need the big guys. The finale and Sibelius is really orchestral scores, and I don't do that, so I don't need them. However, yeah, you can use whatever you're comfortable with. It's going to be you doing the notating, so if you're already comfortable with finale, use that. Kelly, glad you like the idea of the book. That's awesome. And Melissa, your gears are turning. I love that. Take this, put your own spin on it. It's been so fun, but there's absolutely other ways to approach this, and yeah, explore it with your students. So we had a few suggestions for topics. If you're watching this even on the replay, let me know what you would like to hear about. We have these sessions coming up 3 times a week at the moment to keep us all connected, keep everything inspired. Make sure to touch base with you guys. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on the Colourful Keys YouTube channel. And by the way, if you're not a member yet and you want access to lots of resources, step-by-step lesson plans, online teaching ideas and all of that, you can sign up right now at vibrantmusicteaching.com with the coupon code ONLINE, all capitals, to get your first week for $1. So if you want to just test it out, if you're feeling a bit financially insecure right now, as I know many of us are, then give that a go. I'd love to see you inside the community and connect with you and help you more there. So we had suggestions about talking about practice with pals, which are my group workshops that I've been doing with my students, super low-key practice sessions we've been doing, which have been really nice and relaxed and fun. So I will definitely talk through one of those sessions and how they work next week. And then there was another suggestion there. I'm not going to find it. What was it? Oh, it's going to be too far back. Another suggestion. Nope. I'm going to go back and check what that was. I saw something, but it's gone out of my head. So, absolutely, I will cover anything that people want to hear about. So, add your suggestion in the chat. I'm also thinking about the next project that we're going on to, so I'll share my plans with that. And we'll have some fun interviews maybe in the coming weeks too. So, I hope you'll join me back here again. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel while you're here, so that other people find it, so that you find the videos again and you don't miss out. And I will see you back here for our next Vibrant Music Teacher Chat. Talk to you soon, guys. Bye.